Hello Husker fans, Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald and HuskerExtra.com. This is our opening video for the Husker Camp Countdown that we do every single year. That's going to start in mid-June. We put together a honorable mention list of 10 players, and then we have a top 50. And I wanted to just try to explain a little bit about how we do the Husker Camp Countdown, because we often get questions about how people land where they do and why they're there. What about why aren't there more freshmen who are higher on the list, things like that. So I wanted to just kind of explain a little bit of how this particular countdown works. First, there's 3 that make lists: myself, Evan, and Jimmy. Jimmy Watkins is our new addition, and he had an interesting list, and it sort of altered some of the spots and where players landed. So we all 3 make a list, and then I sort of combine all those together and kind of look at where things are, and then I'll move some of the names around depending on a couple of factors, and here they are. The first one is just how good is the player? How prominent is the player on the team? Are they one of the best players on the team? Are they a player who might be emerging? Oftentimes, the #1 player on our list has been somebody that we knew was going to be really, really good. There was an exception, which I'll talk about in a minute. We weren't sure, but oftentimes it's one of the best players on the team. Second issue, the prominence of the role that they play. In other words, the role that they have on the team. By the very nature of its position, quarterback is always going to be high, even if there's a question mark about who's going to start, right? And this year, I don't know that there's a huge question mark. I think Casey Thompson's probably going to be your Husker starting quarterback in Ireland, but there's a little bit more of a question mark, I think, than there was certainly last year. And so, you know, but that position plays a role. Quarterback's always going to be high. The #1 pass rusher is always going to be high. The #1 corner is going to be high. I think that in college football, a center is as equally as important as a left tackle. If you go to the NFL, they'll tell you the left tackle is the most important position because that tends to be the side that the quarterback can't see, right? And so they'll say it's the left tackle, or for the rare left-hander like Tua, it'd be the right tackle. In college, I got to be honest with you, I think center's more important. Or center's right there, because you're playing with kids, and they need communicators, and they need leaders, and a lot of times these left tackles tend to be talented and young, and they're not always the leaders of that line the way they would be in the NFL. So center is important. Interior defensive line is important. That's another position that we really watch. As it relates to punter versus kicker, punter is more important in college football. There are a lot of teams that got kickers who miss kicks. Let's just be blunt there. Nebraska missed 8 kicks last year. The teams they played missed 8 too. The difference in Nebraska's special teams last season was the punters. Nebraska gave up, obviously, 2 touchdowns on either block punts or punt returns, and then the other teams had, you know, the best punters on the planet, and several of them are in the NFL now. So punter is more important than kicker. Generally speaking, your wide receiver is going to be a little bit more important than your running back, unless you have an elite running back, like whoever Wisconsin plays, that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of a hierarchy there in the positions. And then we kind of look at, have they proven it? Have they shown something? We look a little bit at their talent. I look a little bit at their star ratings, how that's going to play out. And so that's part of the conversation too. And then there's just that very last part. Just when you're finishing a meal, you got to put the right, you know, whatever you put on it. And we try to have a little fun. So there might be somebody who's at 47 that gets moved to 50 because we're trying to have a little bit of fun with that very first one. That kind of thing can happen sometimes. The way to look at it is to see that, you know, the guys between, I don't know, 41 and 50 are pretty much equal, and then 40 and 31 are pretty much equal. And then after that, it starts to delineate out a little bit, and you're going to find out that outside of kicker and punter, all 22 projected starters are usually in about the top 25 or 26. In this particular case, and this is something I'll give away, Caleb Tanner, I don't know that he's going to start on the first snap at Ireland, but Caleb Tanner's higher than 23. He's way up there. There's a good chance that O'Shawn Mathis and Garrett Nelson are on the field to start that game, but Caleb Tanner is a multi-year starter, and he's going to be enormously important to the roster. Last year was the first year since we've been doing the countdown that we had a defensive player, I believe, at #1, and that was JoJo Domann, and that was a change. The previous 3 years we had Adrian Martinez, and Adrian Martinez. We had Adrian as a true freshman. as the most important player on the team, which was a risk, right? But we knew he was going to be the starter. We knew he was going to be the guy, and we figured he was going to be pretty good. And guess what? That happened to be Adrian Martinez's best season as a college football quarterback thus far. And so we'll see what happens, but last year Nebraska's defense was clearly better than the offense, and so JoJo Domann became the number one. Will it be another defender this year? Will it be quarterback Casey Thompson? Will it be a running back? Will it be a wide receiver Trey Palmer, who might be the most talented player on the team? You'll have to find out and follow along. It starts in mid-June, and it goes all the way into August. All right, Husker fans, that's an explanation of how the Husker Camp Countdown works. Thanks a lot.